You remember these bad boys? Remember that? That looks like it's got the Doctrine of Covenants in it. This is the original 1960 version. What is a revision of this? That this Christendom is actually 70 to 85% in this. And it still remains that way to this day. So today our talk is entitled A New World Translation, a Revision, Not a Translation. So whenever I come across a Bible translation I don't recognize, whether in a bookstore, a library, or online, I have a habit. I turn to the front. I want to know how the translation was done, what texts were used, who worked on it, how long it took. Over time, that habit formed a basic assumption in my mind. Serious Bible translation usually takes a very long time, decades, teams of scholars, slow, methodical work. And of course, I carried that assumption while researching the Jehovah's Witnesses until I came to the topic of the New World Translation. That's when the wheels came off, so to speak. The New World Translation Committee was formed in 1947. The New Testament of the New World Translation was released in 1950, roughly 3 years. And that window does not represent translation work alone. It includes preparation, editorial coordination, and printing. In other words, the actual translation time would have been shorter. 3 years, including print. For what was presented as a fresh translation of the Christian Greek scriptures? At that point, something didn't feel right. Not doctrinally, logistically. Even before you debate theology, the timeline alone raises a problem. A full, original translation from the ground up in that window isn't just ambitious, it's implausible. What emerges is not a new translation, but a revision. A substantial one. Depending on the book and the passage, approximately 70 to 85% of the New World Translation closely follows the American Standard Version, wording, structure, and cadence. This isn't occasionally boring. The ASV, the American Standard Version, functions as the baseline. Now, to be clear, revising an existing translation is not inherently wrong. Many English Bibles are revisions of earlier works. It's how it's being presented. The New World Translation was marketed as a fresh translation from the original languages. This claim matters because what was actually produced aligns far more closely with the American Standard Version revision, selectively adjusted at key theological pressure points. And once you see that, the timeline suddenly makes sense. You can't produce a full translation that fast, but you can revise an existing one. Yes, there are places where the New World Translation diverges from the American Standard Version. Some of those changes involve genuine translation choices. Others involve doctrinal steering. But calling the entire project a fresh translation creates an impression that simply doesn't match the textual evidence. And this doesn't stop in 1950. Even the 2013 revision, presented as a major update, continues to track the American Standard Version remarkably closely to sentence structure and flow. The fingerprints are still there. So the discovery isn't that the New World Translation is bad or fake or that every line is wrong. The discovery is simpler, more revealing. The New World Translation is best understood as a revision, not a translation. And had it been presented honestly as such, much of the controversy surrounding it would have never existed. But once a revision is marketed as a fresh translation, scrutiny is inevitable. The New World Translation, 70 to 85%, the American Standard. They used this as a guide, one that they already had the printing press to, already had Jehovah in the Old Testament, and they were able to quickly revise it, and then continued revising it and making a whole lot of money off it as well. It's a relatively new discovery here. Raymond Franz did make notice of that in his publications, that the New World Translation relied heavily on the American Standard. So this is not necessarily new information, but on the totality of it, I think it is being presented here as certainly something I didn't realize, and I thought it would be interesting for you folks out there. So another show of deception and duplicity involved with the Watchtower organization in presenting their Bible as a translation when it really is just a revision. So thanks again for joining us here. Do not be afraid of them or what they say. They can fake things all they want. The truth isn't going to change. Time is on our side.